Though we are still very young, the chapter's aim is to open up new network of meaning and fresh insights, and of course, actionable knowledge that will help us to create sustainable work environments which promotes the dignity of human life, essentially.
So as Or has mentioned, we're going to have like a huge variety of panelists today, just to sort of like have a diverse group of people with a diverse unit of perspectives on this, what we could consider the biggest problem of our time, which is how to balance economic survival with while preserving employees and human dignity within the workplace.
We've heard we need to reduce our headcount to survive. You know, people say headcount as if they're not working with people. It's like we need to reduce sheep, you know, not considering that these are employees and human beings who people depend on for survival. In terms of COVID, what has it exposed? It exposed company and organizational culture, right? And obviously with culture, you hear we've got corporate culture, we've got banking culture, we've got finance culture, but some of it is good and some of it is bad. And when we look at what is culture, it's become a catchphrase and it literally means how we do things around here, okay? And also, where do cultures come from? Cultures literally come from the way we do things around here when no one is watching. Now, when an organization is extremely successful or an organization goes through a crisis, what we tend to see is that the organization becomes more of itself. So if it's an organization that has a toxic culture, it becomes even more toxic than it was during normal times. And if you've got an organization with a good ethical culture, you'll find that, you know, leadership tends to have a cooler head, you know, and they make more sound decisions in terms of making ethical decisions and in treating their employees as well.
Firstly, we at Precise have realized that there is a lack of appreciation from certain companies, a lot of companies, on experts' interventions. This lack of appreciation comes because there is a huge, the way that we look at wellness in corporate South Africa, and also these trends show in some of the companies in the world, we treat it like the elephant in the room, as we would death. When someone has died, we kind of tiptoe around it, okay? We know it's there. We know it's glaring at us in the face, but it is very difficult for us to directly speak to it. And often it goes unaddressed because of the avoidance and the discomfort.
So prior to the pandemic, the company did already have an existing wellness program, but there was a greater emphasis in terms of making, raising the awareness for employees to realize when and how they can access those specific platforms. And I think the most powerful thing that they did was in June, they started running a campaign called an I Am Human campaign. So every week they would feature people, mental health stories, and you know what I mean, this was very profound, especially with, you know, being an entry-level employee, to see your MDs, you know, talking about the fact that, you know, they are struggling with mental illness, and you know, they're human.
I actually, from what I've seen in my experience, is that the teams are actually getting closer, ironically. They've almost like overcompensated to make sure that they connect, but they don't interact with other teams as much. And so the silos that have always existed in companies, we always know there's been silos, but they become deeper, they become more ingrained. And that's going to be an interesting challenge that leadership development needs to work at.
And I think that opens up opportunities for doing things differently in South Africa. And that is where I'm going to get to, that maybe we shouldn't speak about balancing economic survival of businesses with employees' dignity, because it makes it sound as if it's two sides, or it's either or, whereas I think the two go hand in hand, and we should start not as opposing ends, but as the one is only possible with the other.